A Russian landing ship has been destroyed and 2 other vessels damaged as Ukrainians continue to fight back against Russian forces. Holly Williams is in southwest Kyiv with more and joins us now with more.
Ukrainian authorities claimed yesterday that Russia has forcibly moved more than 400,000 of this country's people into Russia. Now, we cannot independently verify that assertion. To put it in perspective, though, that is roughly the population of the entire metro area of Savannah, Georgia. But here inside Ukraine, the fight continues.
Ukrainian forces say they're close to recapturing Irpin, around 14 miles north of Kyiv. The Russian assault has torn this place to shreds. A thriving town reduced to a wasteland with very few residents left. When most fled earlier this month, there were horrifying scenes as Russian forces opened fire on civilians. But the mood of the Ukrainian soldiers now, as they claw back control of Irpin, seems to be upbeat.
Everybody fears for their lives, but most important, it's a freedom of our nation and future of our nation.
The Ukrainian fight back is being fueled by tens of thousands of ordinary citizens, young and old, who are signing up to fight. At this military base, we found new recruits coming to grips with an anti-aircraft weapon, getting schooled on this heavy machine gun and learning to fire mortars. Officers here told us they'll only get around 1 week's basic training before heading to the front line. Glory to Ukraine, these volunteers shout, followed by an insult to Vladimir Putin, which we can't repeat on television. In the armory, they told us they're receiving weapons from NATO countries.
Hand grenades. Wow.
The officer in charge wouldn't show his face for security reasons. They're stocked with RPG rockets, AK-47s and bigger guns. This sniper rifle, made in Tennessee, arrived with directions in English.
But you'll figure it out.
But they told us they need more, as well as vehicles to move their soldiers to the front.
If we don't stop Putin in Ukraine, he will go more.
Lieutenant Miroslav Hai was a filmmaker and reservist before Russia invaded his country.
Russian, for example, can use nuclear weapon, but it don't stop Ukrainians.
Even if Vladimir Putin decides to use a nuclear weapon, you won't stop fighting?
Don't stop fighting.
We've heard a lot of anger from Ukrainians, a lot of emotion that their country is being assaulted. But something that we have not heard any Ukrainian do is complain. Not once. They are simply getting on with the job of defending their homeland. Anne-Marie and Vlad.
And inspiring everybody in doing so. Holly, thank you very much. We continue our coverage further north into western Ukraine. That's where Imtiaz Tyab is reporting, and he joins us now from Lviv. Imtiaz, President Zelenskyy is praising sanctions on Russia, but also warns that they're coming a little too late. The sanctions there have been sanctions that have been piling up since the start of the war. So what's he hoping for next?
Anne-Marie, Vlad, very good to talk to you. President Zelenskyy pretty withering in those criticisms of Europe and indeed the Western world, of course, as President Biden travels to Brussels and now onwards to Poland, where you have President Zelenskyy saying, look, we appreciate these sanctions, and we know it's really hurting Russia, and we know that Russia is being sort of X'd out of the global economic system in a way that is very punishing to them and very punishing to people who are close to Vladimir Putin. But why not sooner? Why 1 month into this war are you announcing more sanctions? Why hasn't this happened before that? And on some level, he has a point. We have to remember, Vlad, Anne-Marie, we were talking before this conflict began. I was in Kyiv, and you had U.S. intelligence officials who were saying, look, this war is going to happen. This war is going to happen. And here in Kyiv, most Ukrainians were like, well, I don't know if that, I don't see it happening. But more importantly, you had Vladimir Zelenskyy saying, whoa, 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 you're goading, Putin into war. Like, enough with this war rhetoric. You're spooking my markets. I don't want, foreign businesses to flee here. And now this war has started to horrific effect. And so there's a lot of things going on here, but I think it speaks to the fact that here you have Mr. Zelenskyy saying, okay, if your intelligence was right for so long, why didn't you do something sooner? This could have stopped this. This could have prevented or could have acted as a deterrent. But right now, Vladimir Putin has launched this war. Yes, he's being squeezed economically, but he's going to keep going. And for what we've seen, guys, he is still going. Vladimir Putin and his bombs still falling and causing untold misery right across this country. Anne-Marie.
Imtiaz, we have talked about the some 3 million Ukrainian refugees that Europe is now absorbing. Internally, there are people who are displaced who are staying in Ukraine, so many more of those. But now, and Holly touched on this, we're hearing reports of about 400,000 Ukrainians who have been forcibly sent to Russia. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it's terrifying, these numbers. 400,000, as Holly said, that's the metro area of Savannah, Georgia, all sent to a place, from what we understand, that they don't want to go, Russia. Now, if this is true, and again, we're trying to find evidence of this, and we've been unable to contact people who may have been forcibly displaced, this is a war crime. Forcibly displacing people is a crime of war. Now, what's interesting about this number that has been given to us by the Ukrainian government, who say 400,000 of their civilians have been pushed into Russian territory, Russia has also said 400,000 Ukrainians are now in their territory. But they say they've gone there voluntarily. But when we look at all these numbers, one number I want to give you guys is this number of 50%. 50% of all children in Ukraine are now displaced by this conflict. 50%. You can see behind me, there's a playground, a lot of kids there. It's a really nice scene. You have mothers and fathers, grandparents playing with children, but this is Lviv. This is a place which has seen a lot of displaced people. No doubt some of those children are displaced. And when you think about it, half the children in this country, every other child is displaced. That means 1 in every other child doesn't sleep in his bed anymore, doesn't play with his friends anymore, isn't able to do anything that they've been able to do their entire short lives because of this conflict. And they all have this very uncertain future. And many pass through here in Lviv, onward to places like Poland, where the president is now, again, to a very uncertain future. So the numbers coming out of Ukraine are horrifying, but behind every single one of those numbers is a person. Anne-Marie.
It's a good reminder. Imtiaz, thank you very much.
My pleasure, guys.